Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. We're here. We're at the finale of Peacemaker, Chapter 8. It's Cow or Never.
It's cow or never, baby.
Okay. Well, so this episode starts with Adebayo continuing to try to apologize to Peacemaker. He does the funny fart stuff. So does Vigilante. But I think it comes down to her questioning his stance on death and what he thinks about it. Interesting move, but it seems to work. It seems to be an effective move.
Yeah. I think it's just one of those things where she's coming to terms with the idea of like, okay, these aren't normal people. This isn't normal society. I can't have the normal societal judgments of morality put on these people, and that's what's been wrong the whole time. You know, like last episode or a few episodes ago, when like, so what's the difference between this guy and this guy? Is like, because we stand shoulder to shoulder, and he's a soldier, and that's the for hardcore, right? So I think she's learning that, or learning that at least her standards, her worldviews, will not apply anymore.
I mean, I think she's recognizing it, but I don't think she's saying that it won't apply, because she ends on being like, that's stupid, and imposing her way of life on them.
Oh yeah, she's being stubborn about it, but it's
so
clear
I don't
that
think she's
it's challenged.
it.
No, not yet.
I think she's trying to.
It's leading there. Yeah.
But yeah, I think she is trying to recalibrate how she approaches this situation, but it is still that she's trying to get them to think like her.
Yes, I agree with you there. I do appreciate the fact that she's very persistent with it, because anyone could have been like, I tried and I gave, like, and given up, but she feels the weight of that move. She knows it was morally, ethically wrong on any account, and that's the thing. It's just like, hey, whether or not this be normal society's moral code or our moral code, it was still wrong. I set you up to take the fall. It's heavy on her. And I like that.
Yeah, I think it's what we were talking about. She doesn't want to be seen as the bad guy, so she's going to try and push so that that relationship is still good, and not sullied. And I don't think that doesn't mean she's like, sorry, I don't think that means she doesn't think she did anything wrong. I think she does realize that, but she also, from what we've seen before, still would want to keep the relationship good, even if she did think she didn't do anything wrong. But I think it's a case of wanting to do what she normally does, which is come out looking like the good guy, but also she was like, well, I really did do something wrong this time. But yeah, and then they cut to her on the phone with her mom being like, can you send the Justice League or something? And I guess that's when they reveal to Peacemaker, like, can you believe that Amanda Waller is her mom? And I do like his acting in this point when he goes, yes. And it's just another dagger for her. He's like, oh, you mean like manipulative and an asshole? Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah. Because that reaction, I was like, oh, right, he still doesn't know. And I'm like, that reaction's cold and saying something. And she's picking it up, obviously.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Well, they're connected. Like, I definitely think she gets him. So she gets that what he just said definitely meant to hurt her, and I think he does sort of understand her in the sense that he's like, this will hurt her feelings,
right? And I think, like, one of the biggest things that I don't think we've said yet is like the similarities of background between Amanda Waller and, of course, the other thing, like hardcore, extremely, like, do anything, kill everyone, and all that kind of stuff. Like, different moral codes from the kids to the parents. Like, there's a connection there. It's like, hey, your dad was a racist. My mom kills people relentlessly and all this kind of stuff for different causes. But she's identifying with the fact that, hey, I get that you don't agree with your parents' moral code or your parents' worldview, and we connected and bonded about that. There's a small similarity in very different directions entirely. Can't be overlapped, but there are small similarities. And I think that's what just continues to pull them together too.
Yeah, probably. That's a good point. So then they're set up right outside the barn. I mean, not right outside, but close within walking distance of the barn, and they're trying to pitch all the different helmets and which ones they can use. I think they settle on Sonic Boom,
the Sonic Boom,
and then
the one
using the levitation helmet.
Yeah.
So
the levitation.
we'll get
The anti-gravity one
one
was an accident though.
So yeah, so no, that was part of the plan. She just said it and then threw them off.
Right.
But it was a very key part of the plan, was to use the anti-gravity helmet. It's just she fucked it up. And I can't tell. I really felt like, obviously having seen the episode, I don't see where there's room for her to be sabotaging them. But it felt like she did it in two key moments where it looked like she was trying to sabotage them.
Yeah.
Obviously playing into my belief that she's way more in control of what's going on than we think. But the episode doesn't really pay it off. It does just look like, oh, she just did something stupid, which they've done a couple times, like where that time when I can't remember what Harcourt called her in the last episode, and she's like, what, why would you bring that up? And it's like, oh, I thought you were talking about a medical condition. And I was like, did you? Like, do you actually think that? Just like, did you actually just drop the walkie-talkie out of your hands? Like, it seems like there was some key moments where I'm like, is she dumb? I can't tell. Like, I just genuinely can't tell what they want to do with her, but we'll get to it. But yeah, so she sets off the anti-gravity helmet, which then gives Peacemaker the idea that he can get Eagly to do it. And I like Harcourt being like, it's not gonna work. Like, he doesn't know what you're talking about. And he's like, just trust me. And even Vigilante gets on board. And it looks like Eagly's doing it, but Eagly just drops Eagly just drops the Sonic Boom helmet.
Yeah, just drops it in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, doesn't really
help
them.
But I like that. I like that payoff in the sense where it's like Harcourt speaking the truth, and for moments like, hey, yeah, Eagly's hugged him twice. People have experienced it. This bird is magical and is a great like attack drone for like a good like a forced getaway scene.
Yeah. But he's still a bird.
Like, yeah, he's still a bird.
He's not like an anthropomorphic, like he's not partly human. It just so happens you've connected with this bird, but he is still just a bird.
Yeah. And it's Hardcore having that, like, knowing that limitation, be like, this is the dumbest thing ever. There's no possible way. It just pays off in such a great way where it's like, is he actually going to do it? Nope. This is way funnier and way better.
So then that sends the team to go look for it. And the two big things I thought were Harcourt asking the question that we were talking about last episode, which was, why would that be a sign that you should keep fighting instead of just going in the opposite direction and being with the people you love? I don't think she said and being with the people you love, but like that is what the conversation we had of like, why would, if she really did care about her family, that would have been a sign to be like, yeah, be with the people you love instead of keep doing this, like this thing that you say you don't like. And again, I won't harp on it too much, but I think this would be another scene where people who think that this was a show about Adebayo, again, not the whole show, the show was putting on display her arc of Breaking Bad and or realizing that this is too much for her. This is, I guess, a scene for them to be like, yeah, see, like she's like, oh yeah, I guess, oh that's, I'm so dumb to not think about that, but I really feel like it was still like she was found out again. I thought that was just more pointing out like, you do like this obviously because you took that as a sign to keep doing this instead of and her feeling like called out but not necessarily wanting to give everything away. I'm still holding on to her last scene. We'll get there, but her last scene gave me House of Cards vibes, so I was kind of like, I feel like this was her, like she got where she needed to get in terms of position of power. But
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And then we see kind of, I guess I didn't think about this last episode, but that killing the dad wouldn't really get rid of the very real damage he did to his views in life, and so he will still be, obviously because it's a TV show, we can dramatize it as
Mhm.
he has a ghost following him, but still all of that stuff would still be in his head even though he killed his dad. So that was an interesting that I was kind of like, why didn't I think of that? Like obviously that's what they
Yeah.
would do.
Yeah. I was definitely like half expecting it. Because I'm just from a storytelling standpoint, ghosts are just a great way of just continuing being like, hey, here it is. But also like the idea of like one thing you said a few episodes ago was that, you know, the more self-awareness you have, the less happy you're gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
And this show has been all about Peacemaker getting his self-awareness and becoming more self-aware and connecting with people in a genuine way, not his deflective way and all those kind of things, breaking down those barriers, right? So as he's becoming more self-aware in general, you can't be self-aware and not recognize what you supported in the past and had homage to that, right? So I was just thinking, what's the best possible way to write this that looks at the source material, which like he does have a Nazi father in the source material, and it apparently does come up a few times, like flashbacks or whatever that influences actions going forward. It didn't surprise me, but what surprised me is the fact that the ghost actually did die from the blow dart. So I don't know if it's just him reliving the trauma over and over again, or
it didn't die
the
from
ideas.
It didn't die from because obviously he's at the end as well. So like it was just done for that moment. He said what he needed to say, and then he'll just keep coming back. You can't actually, unless you do actual work, just get rid of that specter in your life.
You can't just decide, hey, I voted for this person this time, I'm all
so
good, because that's all you need. But it's the idea of like I don't know if he's haunted more by the trauma or the history is what I'm saying.
Well, because it doesn't have to be one or the other.
I guess so, and that's what season 2 is there to explore.
I don't
right?
think.
Yeah,
I think it would be weird to say it would be one or the other, because that's the whole point of having him be back. Like, and you see at the end when he sits down, even more self-awareness of like, you think you're happy, you got your friends that don't talk to you eagerly, and now the Goff song Butterfly, but like you also have his dad sit down there and look very much at home right beside him. And what that means about what you just said that I said, but about like the self-awareness of like, oh shit, yeah, this is still with me, I still have to deal with this, I haven't actually dealt with this part of me, and the smile it takes off of his face. But I think it's everything to do with his dad. It's not just one
It's just a whole ball of trauma.
Deal with his dad.
It's a whole ball of trauma, because it's interesting when he like had the showdown with his dad. He was like, no, you killed Keith, you did this, you made me do this, you like all this kind of stuff, you made me kill, and all like, yes, those things are all true, and but it's all wrapped up in trauma now. It's like, it's there. He's got to do the work. You're right. That's what that looks like in season 2 is I'm interested in seeing what that looks like. But you know, a lot of people, I've seen some people being like, oh great, so like, you know, like what did he actually do? Did he actually kill? I'm like, yes, he still took out a whole bunch of white supremacists and killed people in real to life and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, he did good by that. But it's you don't
one thing though. He hasn't actually worked on himself.
You're not, your hands aren't fully clean. Exactly. It's just like I said, you changed your vote. That's all. But you don't support these causes, and you like, you know, don't change anything else. That's the problem, and that's what he's realized here. It's good scene. It's good stuff.
Agreed. So then they get the helmet, obviously, because it was found under his dead dad, and Economist has to go put it in the barn, which he kind of gives up on. He doesn't go all the way down. He kind of just gets out of there.
He spazzes
and they asked him about the beard, and this is kind of the Economist part of like, well, I'm self-conscious. I've never had a significant other. But I was cheap about it. I was lazy about it. It's a big deal. And then he obviously, everyone sees how they played a role in him being Diebeard, not just Peacemaker. I think everyone kind of is like, oof, yikes, maybe we should be nicer to him.
Yeah, for sure. That was hard to watch, that level of honesty. I'm like, holy crap. And to know that the butterfly is only going to give him a shitty response afterwards, just like, just seeing it. But I mean, it was really well done.
I agree. So then he's trying to make his way out, and they're like, Adebayo, like, set off the bomb. And this is where she drops the walkie-talkie. And I'm like, is this so that she can give him time but not have to say, just wait? Like, if she slips, it gives him enough time to clear the range.
I don't think so. I can't say that because
I just feel like it's too weird of a detail to put in there. Because you don't just do activity. Everything is supposed to reveal. And I feel like this show has done that, where every moment reveals something about the character. Like the same way you were able to clock Myrn is obviously a butterfly based on these things that in a vacuum you could have just been like, well, whatever, he's just watching Lethal Weapon 4 or whatever, he's just doing this. But you were able to see, like, no, that means something. And I don't think you put in her dropping the walkie-talkie in the same episode where she takes out a bunch of people very easily with guns and uses excellent marksmanship. I don't think you put that in there unless you're trying to reveal something about her.
You raise good points. And then my biggest question ultimately is, like, you could still be manipulative and genuinely on your first mission. But you know what I mean? You're right.
She's not on her first mission, one. And two, I mean, fair. It's all part of her first mission, but this isn't the first time in action for her.
Correct. But still, first mission and having that anxiety of like, oh shit, it's the finals now. You know what I mean?
I just think that it's not real. Like, that's a big question mark to me, because I don't think you just put that in there as like a funny thing without trying to actually. We already know it's her first. Like, that doesn't reveal anything,
right?
Unless you're trying to point at like something else.
To play devil's advocate here, I want to point out that it was never told to her what the radius of shock was. And the whole point was not to kill the cow, it was to stop the teleportation so that they could get to the cow, right? And kill it ultimately. So, and they didn't know whether or not the shockwaves would kill the cow. But either way, like, that's why I'm like, as many arguments as there are towards she dropped it on purpose to let him get away, I think there are more arguments to be like, no, that was legit a mistake. Just like how they let John Cena make the mistake of allowing Eagly to drop it in the woods by accident. You know what I mean? There are still mistakes.
That is a revealing moment for Peacemaker. Her dropping the walkie-talkie isn't. Him putting his trust in Eagly and people being like, you can't trust him that much. He's still just an animal. Yeah. And that also leads to the end where he says, next to Eagly, you're my best friend. But it's showing like there are actual people, human beings who can talk back to you that you should be putting your trust in more than you do right now.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, is that if you're going to compare the two, one of them
is
a setup, another, and I'm saying the other one is also a setup. It's not just a thing that happened.
I think you make there's good arguments.
I'm not saying there's no room for people to believe she just dropped it. Obviously, right. I would have been. Most people think she just dropped it. I'm saying in a show that really paid attention to details, and as I said, that Eagly thing isn't just a joke. That is setting up the idea that, hey, maybe I don't put all of my trust in this thing that Vigilante already pointed out is a like symptom of me not really wanting to engage with people.
Yes. I get what you're saying. And I think the ultimate thing here is that if she dropped it, then we would have to definitively recognize that she also activated the shockwave thing too late. Well, maybe a bit too late, because they were already swarming and like kicking and beating Economos.
As I said, it's more murky than it is.
Damn it. I just provided arguments against my argument in the sense where I'm like, okay, if he was surrounded by people, then the shockwave would have impacted him less. Damn it.
Yeah, I think that basically what I get from her, what we've been talking about,
Yep.
lines up more with she did it on purpose.
Yeah, I agree with you.
She doesn't want to look like the bad person. So everyone's telling her to do it. And so instead of saying, no, let's wait, and then having it be on her to make a decision that they're like, this is on you. You told us to wait, and then it didn't work out. She like, dropped it.
You can't blame me for that. I've got sweaty hands.
Again, using her perceived.
Yeah, I'm on your side now with this. I think I talked myself out of it. You put up really good arguments. I think she did that on purpose because she was holding with two hands.
Yeah, she drops it, and it's like everyone would be like, "Oh, Adebayo, she's new." She can hide behind that and then still be like, "Well, I didn't."
Yeah,
I made a decision, but no one thinks I made a decision right there.
Yes, I think
she's been doing all season.
Yeah, true. I think it would have been more plausible that she dropped it if she was holding the walkie in one hand and a gun in the other. And then I'm like, okay, one hand slip, and it was your non-dominant hand. Okay, cool. And I don't know, you've been injured a lot. So maybe that makes sense. But you're right. I think this is more of I did it again kind of situation. And the last time basically she could get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I'm not saying there's no evidence that she just dropped it. I just think that in a show that pays attention to details and what we've been talking about as we've covered this whole thing, it leads me to believe that it was on purpose. But I'm not saying that's like a flawless execution of it. There's obviously people could just be like, no, she just dropped it. And James Gunn can be like, yeah, she just dropped it. I thought it was funny that she just dropped it. Because I just think it makes sense that she would try to buy time.
I agree. I'm on your side now because in the sense where she was the one that elected Harcourt to be the leader, she can now not be subordinate immediately, right? So an accident is not subordination. An accident is just clumsiness.
And that's what they expect of her anyway.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, good argument. Yeah, she did it on purpose. She did it on purpose.
Then the team advances on the barn to the theme song. It was great. Loved it. Awesome. And they make it seem like Harcourt and Vigilante are going to die, but they don't. But I like that Vigilante took someone out with his last thing. I was like, good for him. Yeah. And Harcourt, great. She was great. And then Adebayo runs in to
go ham,
help, and she really does. So Economist tripping and basically splitting open his leg. I was just like, before I realized that he had split his leg, I thought she was trying to save him. I thought she set something up to stop him. This I'm willing to say that I thought too much about. I think he just tripped. But I think at first I was like, what did she do to him? And I'm like, oh no, I guess he just really tripped. And it's trying to show that he's not the action star, even though he's had a couple of moments. He still is very much the guy in the chair. I
believe that was a mistake for sure, because he's been making mistakes all season.
Again, it sets up him. Everyone else is going and doing something. I mean, Harcourt has very real rehabilitation to do, but everyone's kind of it. And then where does he go? He goes right back to Bel Rev and sits in the chair and sets up his desk.
With the limp.
I feel like that's the setup. As I was saying, things not just happening. It was kind of this is the setup to show you oh, I don't really want to have that happen again. I am good at what I do in the chair. And he said it earlier in the season when he was like, I pulled off some real magic here by getting his dad in jail. I think you should be respecting that more. So I think that's what that was trying to set up.
It reaffirms the fact that he's like, I've done some field work. It's time to hang up my hat because I can't trip without shattering my shin bone.
I don't want to do that. I can be just as effective in the chair.
I mean, and Belle Reve is not an easy prison to be a warden of, I had imagined.
No, definitely not now that Adebayo has blown it up, but we'll not, and I mean blown up their spot or what they do there. But we'll get there
for sure.
And I like that Adebayo gets the butterfly before it goes into Harcourt's mouth.
Oh God, I was really hoping that wouldn't be the case. I would really hope that she did get up taken over the butterfly fire.
And I
So that was good.
I do feel like Economist made it there pretty quickly, considering he had to drag himself there. But that's where he hands off the human torpedo helmet.
Yes.
And
Quick question for you, because I always like to look at fight scenes, and I like to look at this. Did you have any issues with this fight scene?
no,
Okay.
what did you have an issue?
I had an issue with Hardcore not taking any cover during fire. Heavily. I had an issue
Where
with
was
them
the
standing
cover?
in the.
They're in the middle of a field.
There is a barn that they could hide behind. There was no tactical.
No, they're
there's
going
this
towards
person's.
the barn.
I get that, but there's
So where would
cover
they hide?
along the way, tractors, whatever. It's just there were
I don't know
things
about
around.
that.
I got to rewatch that scene.
I think
It
you need to
bothered me.
rewatch it. I don't think there was that much cover.
I think they stood in the middle of an open field, but from what I can remember, it was in the middle of the area, like not right before, but like let's say 500 meters away from the barn entrance. There was still stuff that they could visually hide behind because there was a lot of people jumping out from behind stuff to attack them. So I'm like, why aren't they taking cover? Why are they just standing in the middle?
I don't think that's true, but
mm.
honestly, it didn't matter to me because the story needed to be what it needed to be. But I don't think there was that much cover. I think
That's
they were
fair.
in the middle of an open field.
That's fair, but that's just something. Maybe I need to watch that scene again. But it's like, the final season of Game of Thrones where that like big battle happened, and you're watching certain things happen. You're like, wait, why are they sending the cavalry out before? Like, what? It makes no battle sense.
I think the difference here is they are like, this is a Hail Mary. It doesn't really matter. Like, we just need to get there and get this done versus, hey, we knew we were going to have this fight. We were told it's coming. And this was our plan to get our best fighters to do the first wave and have them killed off right away. And we look like I think this was like, look, like it needs to get done however it needs to get done. We don't really have time. Like, we're not
right.
We didn't have time to strategize. We just have to get there and get it done. So I think that's the difference for me. It's not
right.
Yeah.
Okay. I also, you know what? Something I didn't never consider too is like, if they fail, then they're either facing the butterflies or Amanda Waller. They're dead either way.
I think they were looking at it as they're just dead because the butterflies will win.
Yes.
I don't think they thought,
Fair enough.
we're gonna have to face it. I think they were like, it's the end of the world if we don't.
This is literally a Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think this was just kind of like, we just have to get this done.
Gotcha. Okay. That bothered me a lot.
No, that's fair. Again, as I say, or I try to say every time, obviously you can't be the only person that bothered. Like, I'm sure there's probably a million people. If 3 million people watch, I'm sure there's a million people that.
Well,
like,
there's.
What the hell?
I can confirm that there's dozens of us. Dozens.
But it didn't bother me. I don't like.
Gotcha.
I always look at what's the intent of the scene, and the intent of the scene was to show you, in my eyes, Adebayo isn't just this person who doesn't know what she's doing. Specifically, not someone who just drops the walkie-talkie. You can't mouth or like plow through all those people and get that all done if you're like, oh gee golly, I guess it was just the adrenaline that got me here. It's kind of like, no, you know what you're doing.
She was doing like crazy trick shots. She was shooting people in the knees and then into the face, and like it was like sniping down
and
butterflies.
The way she took out the butterfly when she grabbed it, like
expert.
Like, she knows what she's doing.
Expert precision. It's just like
precision, exactly. Like that precision that doesn't really lend itself to drop the walkie-talkie.
It's everything is very, very calculated here.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
So I think you're supposed to feel like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And for me, if I'm being honest, I already know that Harcourt is in the Black Adam movie, which could take place before these events, but I doubt it.
Oh, I did not know that.
So I was just like, well, she's not dead. And we all knew that Peacemaker was going to have his own show. I think you knew that it was to take place after the Suicide Squad. I was like, maybe it's a prequel. But for this one, I'm just like, well, they've already pulled this trick with Peacemaker. So I'm kind of like, well, she's obviously not going to die. I did think Vigilante would die, but I kind of like that someone compared him to Deadpool. I'm like, yeah, he's just always going to come back.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I'm fine with that being the function.
Yeah.
I wasn't really worried about their tactical approach to this. It was more to show off oh man, the chips are down. They're really down for the count. Adebayo knows what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so in that sense, the fight scene worked for me.
Gotcha.
I really liked the confrontation in quotation marks between Myrn and sorry, not Myrn, Song and Peacemaker when she was
Goff
just,
Song. Yeah.
Goff Song, when she's just kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna try and kill you. Like you're
Mhm.
gonna work with us. I know it because we both took an oath, and like I know you took care of me, so you get it. And
Mhm.
we're not trying to take over. They're the bad guys, obviously. There's no there's no thing about, but I get that she's like, this is helping you guys. You're gonna destroy this earth. So we just need to steer the ship in the right direction. And the reason Myrn didn't like it is because we're taking you over. So like that's not right, but he's an idiot. So we know what we're doing and we're gonna save this earth.
Yeah.
And that's why Judo Master helped us. And like just get on board. And I like the appeal she makes to him. I know the butterfly is also female. That's why I'm fine saying she for all of this.
Yes.
She's
the queen.
Yeah,
she's literally the queen. So you're
Mhm.
entirely accurate by saying that.
I liked the approach. There wasn't like it is still the bad guy speech, but it wasn't done where you're like, wow, she's stalling or giving him time to like. It really felt like, I get it. It's all those beats. Oh, we're not so different, you and I. It's all those beats, but she's doing it with such compassion, and I genuinely feel like she cares. I mean, they end up still together at the end of the show, so it's like they have a connection, and she's just like, look, man, like this is it. Like, just help. Like, help save this planet. You said you're the peacemaker. This will bring peace. And we'll get to his reasons for not going along with it, which I really liked. Well, that happens later, he reveals, but in the moment he just goes, no, activate human torpedo. And launches Adebayo right into the cow, and then they take it all down. I genuinely was surprised when it was Song who ripped Peacemaker out of where he was, though. Initially I was like, wait, what?
I wasn't that surprised because to me, I was like, okay, hold on. We know these butterflies have increased strength too.
No, it wasn't the strength. It was just they're showing you Adebayo, and so I'm thinking like, oh wait, because the whole time I'm thinking of reasons that Adebayo is trying to screw this mission up somehow.
Right.
And I'm like, what? Like, oh, so she was just digging somewhere else to do something else. I was like, it was not really who it was that surprised me. It was more just that it wasn't Adebayo. So I'm like, well, what is she working on? And then you realize, oh, she's just coming from the other end. And it all made sense to me. But I was just like, initially like, well, okay, so what is Adebayo doing now? Like, what is she up to?
No, I was thinking it had to be a butterfly because the monologue thing hadn't happened yet of like so like in my mind I'm like, oh, it's plot armor, he's not going to die until then. And that was just that was the only logic. I'm like, it can't be Adebayo because if they did logic. They would just destroy him because she's already got the human torpedo helmet, and of course that would be the easiest way to destroy it. I'm like, nope, it's too easy. Something has to happen first, and lo and behold, we get the villain monologue, which I agree, I like it.
I thought it was done in a refreshing way, even though it's very clear that all the beats were hit for a villain monologue. But I like the execution of it.
The thing I get from this villain monologue that I don't ever get from any other villain monologue is the idea of compassion, right? When you're talking about Thanos and his monologue about like,
it's like how cold and calculated.
How Titan was the way it was, and then he created this idea. They all thought he was mad, and then his scaling up of that decision is now based on malice. It's based on pride. It's based on all these things where it's like, I knew better than everyone else. Nobody listened to me, so I have to make them. This one is about compassion. Because they're like,
I mean, it is still. It's
still heavily that.
So
it's just still heavily that.
Genuinely connecting with Peacemaker.
Yes, it's the compassion and empathy that I love with this, because they're like, listen, we did this to our planet already. We want to help you not do it to yours, but we see you doing the exact same shit. So this is how we're going to be different. And I'm like, that part, if you skip over that part, the whole thing is like compassion. We need your help. We're appealing to you in a very compassionate way, not really done by other villain monologues.
No,
at least tone wise.
it's
And
the
that's all
tone,
that's
I
really
think.
different.
I think
Yeah, it's the tone that's different.
Yeah. Then we see the Justice League with very awkward omissions.
Very,
it's like,
very
so
obvious,
you
but
couldn't
awkward.
even do the silhouettes for Cyborg or Batman. Like, I get that Ray Parker's not showing up for this, but
I know that was the thing that bothered me about this. I'm
I
like,
was like, you
what?
couldn't do the silhouettes even? Like, obviously Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot weren't there.
Yes.
You still were able to do that, but whatever. I like that it was a payoff to this Aquaman fucks fish like runner from the first ever episode. I like that it finally paid off, and that Jason Momoa was still there. Ezra Miller, I'm still baffled at them really doubling down on working with him, but I mean, he's got it. They both have their movies coming out this year, so obviously they have to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the biggest things. Was I was more happy with Cyborg not being there as long as someone significant wasn't there. So I'm like, it's weird to me that they chose Superman to be there. That's what's weird to me, because I'm like, they really seem to be moving on from him entirely. So why would they remind us?
I will say this. I think they made it clear that Amanda Waller and Batman won't take orders from Amanda Waller. So maybe
that's
couldn't get him.
That's a good point.
I think I get it. It's the two actors who have like vocally been like, fuck that place, I'm not coming back. They're not in the scene. But in the actual universe, Amanda Waller and Ben Affleck's Batman, they talk to each other, but it's not like he would be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll show up where you want me to.
Yeah,
he's the one being like, no, shut it down. I'm not like they're more sparring partners than they are like, oh, hey, like, do this for me.
But in the original Suicide Squad movie, wasn't it revealed that like Amanda Waller got her information from Batman, like Bruce Wayne?
He helped her out, but he helped her out for information about the about Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg.
Right.
So he like, I think he like just cut through some legal red tape for her, but I don't like that was so that he could get what he wanted out of it.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, they're using each other, but I guess it's to say that they're on the same level. That he was just like, no, I'm above this, versus like Superman's like, yeah, I'm a schoolboy Cub Scout, and I'm gonna show up to anything that needs my help, and but I just that was weird, but it was funny that those jokes got paid off with.
So then they go to the hospital. Vigilante's like, man, you got shot, you should really see somebody, and then he just passes out in the middle of the hospital, and Adebayo and Peacemaker finally patch things up, and she's like, why would you pick us? And he was like, I knew they would do something bad to you guys if I helped them. Like, they wouldn't treat you the way you guys should be treated if I did this. So I picked you over saving the world in that sense, like picking his family, his chosen family, which was nice. I like that. And then, as I said, kind of him being like, in typical fashion for him, like kind of deflecting and joking around, but giving you the real thing, which is, after Eagly, you are my BFF. And it's, I think that is earned because like throughout the show, they're the only two that actually talk to each other. There's not, it's not like talking at each other. He's not trying to have sex with her. He genuinely connects with her, and or feels connected to her. I think it could be the beginning of them actually being friends, but I think that it meant something to her that he said that, though. Obviously her wordless reaction to it, she was touched. I mean, or maybe she wasn't, and she's like, good, I got you. But either way, he's, as I said, the Eagly thing to me was to prove like, don't put all your eggs in that basket.
I really appreciated that final, like, we're going to hear this apology out, we're going to hear it through, and then how accepting it was. It was,
because I mean, it's obviously true that he sees her as a good friend. Otherwise, he wouldn't care that much about the betrayal.
Yep.
It was a betrayal in every sense for him.
Yeah. It's his obviously man-childness and low emotional IQ and that kind of stuff. His emotions were just moving through him, right? And they needed to settle. And once they did, he would be able to actually have as like healthy of a conversation as he could have through it, right? Having not done the work that he needs to do to qualm that man-childness and being able to understand all those emotions. But yeah.
So then the next is kind of tying everything up, the montage. So Adebayo does her press conference, and this, as I said, kind of gave me a House of Cards vibes, where she's taking the secrecy away from her mom. She won't be able to operate in secrecy anymore. She says it's happening out of Belle Reeve. Is that what they call it? I always want to call it Belle Rev because that's actually how you pronounce it. But yeah, Belle Reeve. It's happening out of Belle Reeve. My mom is Amanda Waller. She's the one that does Task Force X, and it's giving these criminals time off of their sentence to do these crazy missions. We got another Viola Davis appearance, which I was like, great. Always happy to see her. Just only got to say what the fuck. I did hear that a lot of her stuff got cut, but I get it. I mean, I wasn't really like looking for more of her. I was just happy that she showed up, but I was just like, I don't know what else she can do, because the story isn't really about her right now. I feel she could be in season 2 way more involved, but I feel like just keep her in the mix. And basically over, and like, just obviously it's a press conference, she's dressed up, but she's not dressed like the ho-hum friendly woman anymore. It's a very, like, it seems like it's a more powerful looking suit, and it felt like she's in the spot she wants to be right now.
I had no issues with her stuff being cut if that was the case, because it wasn't about her, and this is anything additional that they added in would have really cemented how they would have to write her going forward too, right? I think back to like a lot of
to commit to stuff.
I think to a lot of other comic book stuff that we've looked at through the years, like knowing that there was one post-credit scene with the Wolverine, the more comic accurate Wolverine outfit, and the director being like, we didn't put that in because we didn't want that to cement where that story would go or what it would look like for the next movie. And I'm like, ever since I heard of that, I'm like,
he's in the Fox universe, so that means nothing because they don't care about continuity at all,
right? But specifically the comic costume, they're like, oh, we didn't want it to be this or this, and just like, the idea of like, okay, cementing that in from a story narrative standpoint of like, this is the stuff that she's already said and you have to deal with in this Peacemaker. Everything's being said is like, is that true? Is it not? Like everything that he says about the Flash, everyone is like, do you know, like that little kid going like, do you know the Flash? Yes, I do. And like everyone that's met him, he's an unbearable D-bag, which I'm like, this is hilarious. That's great.
Which they paid off too. By then being like, fuck off, Barry. But I wanted to get more through the montage before we wrap things up. So and then Harcourt and Peacemaker kind of bond and hold hands because she's like, I heard you were here every day, and he's like, yep. So she appreciates someone caring about her. That was nice. Vigilante kind of leaves the hospital once he sees the press conference. We already talked about Economist going back to Belle Reeve and putting up his family picture, which is from that first group chat picture. That was really nice. And Adebayo goes home to her wife and dogs. They have a nice little kiss. And I thought it was very interesting. Kind of really sad, actually, of Judo Master seeing that it didn't work and then crying. And I'm like, he's crying because he's like, we fucked the earth. Like, we're not gonna be able to save the earth then.
I felt so bad for his character. I'm like, you like, he's the whole time he's been like, you have to hear what they have to say. And like once they did, they're like, no, boom, we don't, we're gonna make our own choices that are the fundamental exact same. And I'm like, who are these butterflies taking over, to be honest? Decision makers, politicians that would have just changed the course of that kind of stuff. And of
Yeah,
course,
who
the political
knows?
stuff that came out. I don't know. I'm conflicted about that. But yeah, like the idea of Judo Master
I
legitimately
mean,
being like,
he bought into like, well, I'd
yeah,
rather the Earth still be here than us keep doing this. And then he didn't have a butterfly in him, so he actually
mhm,
gets to reap the benefits of it. Even so, again,
exactly.
they are the bad guys. I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh, this was a good idea. It's just
Mhm.
I liked her speech, and I liked adding Judo Master in as like
Yes.
someone who actually knows what could have been and is mourning the loss of it.
Mhm.
Vigilante and Peacemaker start blowing things up again, so that's nice for them. And Harcourt starts to walk again. I'm like, yeah, you better show her on her feet because she's got to be in Black Adam next year.
I did not know that these two were in Black Adam.
Just Harcourt.
Just Harcourt?
Yeah.
Not, I thought Adebayo you said too. What?
No,
No?
Harcourt.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
if I did say that, I didn't mean it. I just meant Harcourt.
I see.
And then, yeah, as I said, the last shot is Eagly Peacemaker, and then we see and the Goff song Butterfly, Queen Butterfly, it comes back to him. He's run out of that food, so I'm not really quite sure what she's so happy about.
There, yeah, that was very confusing to me. I'm like,
maybe he
don't.
has more. Like maybe it was like, well,
literally killed
just,
the cow.
I know, but they probably were like, here's some, like, let's just take as much as we can right now.
From
Maybe
the fact
I don't
they
have that big
destroyed
of
the bottling factory, it doesn't seem like they took a vat of it. It's just that
I mean,
was
we'll
so
see how it
sad to
goes.
me. I'm like,
She's still alive, so she could still figure out a way to transport more to herself.
I guess so. I mean, like, but
There's
it
more
seems quite
seasons.
clear
Nothing
that
nothing
she's
is
the only thing.
Nothing's final, right? Like if you
I
say
get
you have a
that.
second season, they obviously have plans for keeping her in the mix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's just to me, I'm like, I don't. What are they gonna do with that amber fluid stuff? And
Look, I didn't think they could keep the dad thing relevant, and they did. So I think
yeah,
it'll be fine. And
right.
then he sits next to him, and we've already talked this through. Like, it's to
Yes.
show like that bit of last bit of self-awareness of like,
Mhm.
yeah,
This
I
is
still have to
still
deal
with
with
me.
this. Yikes.
My past is still with
Yeah.
me. Yeah. One thing, and this is kind of like out of nowhere, but this since we brought up the cow, this late on, it just reminded me. What did the cow eat? Like,
I think we talked about this already, and I was like, I don't care.
it's just, oh man, it bothers me. I just want. I was hoping that someone or you discovered new information that would put that together, but
It doesn't
yeah,
matter to me at all.
fair enough. But they did say for a year, so maybe they were like, "Oh, the life expectancy of this cow is one more year, and we only had a year to get this shit right for your planet."
Yeah. I don't know, but it was kind of just like, I don't.
Yeah, fair.
That detail wouldn't reveal anything to me. It would just be like, oh, okay, great, that's what it eats. And
Yeah.
okay.
I do like how Economos kept calling it a kaiju. It's like, no, he called it Staros kaiju too in Suicide Squad. So that was really, really funny.
He did do that. Do you want to rate the season as a whole?
Oh yeah. This is so I'm so banking that we're gonna have such a similar rating. Off by 0.5. Like, give me a 0.5 margin of spread for the betting odds for Vegas. Like, anything above that would shock me right now.
All right. Let's do you want me to go first or you?
Let's get you to go first.
I'll give the season as a whole an 8.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm still right. I'm 9.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm still right for the spread.
It did not work. It did not work against you at all.
I thought you were gonna go higher than me.
No, I think my enjoyment of this is tied very much to what I think they're doing to talk about racism, especially white people.
Yes.
And being specifically anti-racist and not just like passively not racist.
Right.
And I also think a lot of my enjoyment is tied to whether or not they're actually doing something without a bio, which again, because there's a season 2, there's still room for a lot of stuff to pay off. I don't need it to be very, but I think there's enough things there. And I think that there's not a lot of clarity on it. I saw James Gunn say something that kind of confirms what I thought he was doing about white people and their proximity to racism. He said something on Twitter that I was like, okay, so he's aware of that, and that is in place.
Yeah.
But the 0.5 is because I'm like, as we just talked through, like every time I'm like, oh, this is what Adebayo is doing, I'm like, but there's a lot of, like, maybe not a lot, but there's good counter arguments to all of the things I'm saying, and I feel like that should be more clear.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I said, there's arguments on both sides. I think the stronger argument is on your side, though, where you're like, no, that was done on purpose. Here's
I would
why.
love for that to be the
Here's why.
case, but obviously I've been wrong many times in the past, and I'll be wrong many times in the future.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it's an 8.5. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, I got it. I got it on a 9 because like that ending to me was a bit too happy-go-lucky. Everyone landed where they were happiest or whatever. Like, yeah, sure, the team broke up, but there's no reason for them to be together. It's not like, okay, let's go for the next one. It's like mission complete. Let's do our own shit. Let's move on and all that kind of stuff. Everything just ended up too cheery, too happy, and too in the direction where you're like, wait, there's really no one dying. Vigilante's not dying. Hardcore is not having any giant, like, it's not like Hardcore could be in a wheelchair now or whatever. Like, you know, it's just one of the, and Economos could have died very easily, could have died. To me, I'm like, there really is no heavy weight of the ending of this. It seems so much happier than I wanted it to be. And that's why I have 1 point less.
For me, it's a weird thing to base it on. Is it like if people died at the end? I don't. That's such a weird way to look at a whole piece of art, because like if I'm like, I don't need any of them to die for me to feel like they lost it, because we already know what was at stake. Was this was going to keep the Earth going, and they decided against that.
Yeah,
we saw Judo Master more in the loss of that. We saw Peacemaker be like, holy shit, I think I did everything right, and look, I'm still back right here on the porch with my dad still looming over me. Now what do I do? We see Economos being like, yeah, it's safer back here in my chair. I tried to be out there and it didn't really work out. So I'm gonna retreat to my chair. And I do think that if I'm right about Adebayo, we're gonna see basically a new villain emerge out of that. So I don't really I don't really see how it's too happy of an ending. Maybe more happy than you would like, but I don't think anyone really ends up in a positive spot. I think they as a team have connected more, and that's what you want out of the events of it, but they're not in a happy place. It is, you've got all this new self-awareness. What are you going to do with that? And it's probably not going to be happy times.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. I mean, to me, I do recognize that. Like I always say, like, oh, no one died. This is weird. As a major thing of all my conclusions for these things, because I want stakes to be higher, and to me, if stakes are high, there should be a few casualties. Not that there weren't. I mean, Mern still died. You know, that being all things said, and you're right, like the Judo Master mourning the death of what could have been a better world, a better in terms of environmentalism, all that kind of stuff. You know, that yeah, you're right, not everyone gets what they want, but it's just where it's at right now.
I would
leads
say
me with
not
more
everyone
questions.
gets what they want. There's a good thing I read about endings, right? Like if you get what you want, it usually is a sad ending. If you get what you need, it's a happy ending. Not many people at the end of this got what they needed. They got what they wanted. So Peacemaker got the girl with Harcourt holding his hand. Peacemaker got to kill his dad the way he wanted to. But is that what he needed, or does he need to actually have proper connections with people and deal with the damage his dad has done to him throughout the years?
Very well said.
Yeah. All of these people, and I think Adebayo got what she wanted, but that's not necessarily what she needs. She needs to actually be truthful with the people in her life. She needs to stop trying to manipulate everything. So I think in that sense, it's not that happy of an ending for people. Vigilante gets his friend back. They're blowing up cars, but are they more connected? Does Peacemaker doesn't even say, "Hey, Vigilante's one of my friends." He doesn't even consider him a friend. Like the way, like if you think about it, Vigilante never meaningfully screwed him over. Vigilante was there from every time. Vigilante stepped in when he doesn't even consider him a friend. He's considered some annoyance. So Vigilante doesn't get what he needed. He got, oh, I can still blow things up with my friend Peacemaker.
Right.
None of
and more solo time.
Economos.
Yeah.
Again, he revealed what makes him sad, but does anything change his circumstances about what happened? He's even more alone now. He's sitting alone at his desk now, and without his family.
Right. Yeah.
So
very good point.
So no one gets what they need out of what just happened.
Fair enough. That's very, very well said. Yeah.
So I think that's more important to me than who died. I think
that's fair.
That doesn't dying. Okay, the stakes. Once you die, like that's it, right? Like you don't have to suffer through anything else. You're done. You're out of the game.
True. Except for the racist dads in this equation.
But
of course that's
dead. But
yes, of course.
We're looking at it through Peacemaker's thing, which is very real thing. The damage is still there.
Yeah, the trauma is still very much there. Until it's not. And I don't know if that means we're going to see Peacemaker in a therapist chair. And of course, he's going to say ridiculous things in the therapist chair. That would be kind of funny. But, we'll see what happens in season 2. Glad that there is a season 2 coming. This is probably one of the strongest entries of a comic book movie series that I've seen.
I agree.
To me, totally fitting for a 9. Despite the fact that I was like weirdly attached to no one dying. I mean, except for Myrn.
Yeah, like people died, and
yes,
but
no, you're right. It's very much true. It's just like why I don't consider this a high stakes thing because Myrn's already dead.
Like Civil War, no one died, but those are very like
the Avengers died in Civil War.
Exactly. Well, this is the thing. Like, if you look at it that way, the stakes were high. It broke up the Avengers.
True. Damn it! Why do I do this to myself? Lose my own credibility immediately.
You don't lose. That's okay though. You had a thought and then you thought it through.
Yeah, that's true. This is what critical thinking looks like.
Yeah,
for me.
I mean,
recorded live.
It's the podcast.
Yes, it is.
We're here to talk things through.
It's beautiful. So you're thinking Adebayo gets set up as a major villain in future.
I don't think a major villain. I think it'll still be a slow burn. I think
fair.
In as much as Amanda Waller isn't a good guy,
right?
It's complicated. I think the same thing is true about Adebayo. Yep. And I think she's got more power now.
Yes. So that's the interesting thing is I don't know if they're setting up Adebayo to take over the Suicide Squad in a different way. Not called Suicide Squad, maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. This is part of my not giving it a full 9. It's being like, I wish I had a better grasp on that because I still think it could go either way.
Yeah. Because people could very easily be like, yes.
Oh, she did the right thing. She exposed everybody, and then that's that. But it's like, I feel like she's exposed people so that she can take over.
That's what I feel, right? I don't feel like it's a genuine and we gotta shut it down. It's just like, no, this is what's been happening under your nose for years and all that kind of stuff. And to me, it could go either way. Like now after all this kind of shit, like press conferences, these kind of big bomb revelations. Like I always think back to hey, remember when a whole bunch of journalists got killed and risked their lives to publish the report about the Panama Papers and literally nothing happened? Yeah, it's just except for the journalists getting famous.
It's just an exchange of hands of power. Okay, those people in the papers can't be as openly powerful now, but other people benefit from them having to step further into the shadows. Yeah,
it's a shift in power dynamics. One person just takes over. It's a weird thing. You're right. It's more of it puts her in a position of advantage than anything else. It's not like the program's actually going to go away for a minute. I don't believe. If anything, I feel like the public now just gets to go oh, that's a great idea. We should just have more Suicide Squads.
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up. I think we both really liked it and
Yep.
both seem to be looking forward to season 2. Yeah,
I was genuinely hoping for more of a post credit than a continuation of a joke this time around.
That part was like, well,
that was my letdown.
I think they already showed us what these post credits and quotation marks are.
Yeah,
so I was just like,
I agree, but I just thought like the final one, maybe there's a hint at something new. I don't know, but like,
fair. Yeah, that's a fair thing.
That was slightly disappointing, but you're right. This has been Talk to Death. We love it. It's good times.
Really good. Definitely a very strong entry in the superhero TV stuff. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. If you like this podcast and this caliber of podcast, you will definitely like the other podcasts on the That Shelf Podcast Network. There's Bad Game Movies, Black Hole Films. I was just on there talking about Vertigo, so check out that episode. I've been on a bunch of them, but check it out. And Changing Reels, there's a whole bunch of great. I have been on Changing Reels. You can check that episode too. I talked about Dear White People. But yeah, please go check out thatshelf.com. Go to the podcast section. You might find your new favorite podcast. It's going to be great. If you want to hear older episodes of this podcast, go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. There's no paywall. Just go for it, and you can hear older episodes. And we are at TDF Spoiled on Twitter. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, a whole bunch of places. So please, if we are where you are, rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends. If we're not, get in touch with us and we will rectify that. Enjoy the rest of your day.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.